everyone. My name is Olga. We are the team number 16, and I'm going to give you an introduction about lexical disorders. That is our topic for today. We have the common disorders about languages. Those are most important by linguistics. So we have the first one. The first one is automatism. There is defined as the omission of function words in a speech. The second one is words and morph in a phrase. In this case, this is a disorder of language in speech that is caused by a lesion brain. This lesion brain, not most of the time, but sometimes could be caused by an accident. And the last one, it is paraphasia. This is type of language output error, commonly related with the second one, that is the aphasia. So my partners, they are going to give you some examples about those disorders. They are going to explain you those disorders, the symptoms, where it's located, those disorders, in which part of the brain, etc., etc. And also, we're going to try to give you some examples about people that suffer those lexical disorders. Thank you.
Okay guys, continue with the topic. I'm gonna explain emphasis in words and morphemes. But what does mean emphasis? Well, it's the name to give in a collections of language disorders caused by damage in the brain. According with this definition, we can have two characteristics of the emphasis. One of them is agramatics and the periphrasis. The definition of agramatics is a form of expressing to the emphasis, and this refers that inability to speak grammatically correctly. In the case of paraphrasing, is a type of language error commonly that the phrasing shows error commonly with emphasis and is characterized by the production unintended of the syllables, words, or phrases during the effort to speak when we were speak. Now, agramatics have characteristic of brachaphasia. But what does mean brachaphasia? Well, brachaphasia is also known with motor or expressive emphasis and has characteristic with halted prompting in perceived speech and relative presence and difficult to comprehend. In preferences, we can have characteristics of awareness emphasis. This awareness person is also known as sensory emphasis or receptive emphasis. It has characteristics of fluent speech or marked difficulties to understanding and word in a sentence like noun, adjectives, or verbs.
Hello everybody, it's my turn to explain to you what agrammatism is. So, Agrammatism is defined as the omission of function words in speech production, whereas in comprehension, agrammatic patients perform in a normal range. So, Broca's agrammatic aphasia entails a syntactic deficit, both in sentence comprehension and in sentence production. The general idea is the selective term of impairment in Broca's agrammatic aphasia, and the dissociations witnessed within and between language follow form in the inaccessibility of high notes of the syntactic tree to agrammatic speakers. This causes syntactic structures that relate to high notes of the tree to be impaired in agrammatism, whereas lower structures are unimpaired, as well as the relative order of various syntactic abilities on the tree can also serve to explain degrees of agrammatic severity. So, path of spontaneous recovery from agrammatism. Now, we already know what agrammatism is. Let's see, where is this problem located? Agrammatism is considered to be a characteristic symptom of Broca's aphasia. This disorder tends to be associated with damage to a particular area of the left cerebral hemisphere. Causes individuals to lose their ability to produce syntactically well-formed sentences. They can no longer inflect verbs correctly for tense, use subject pronouns, form relative sentence, produce subordination conjunctions, or construct a well-formed WH question. Now, let's see a brief example about.
The first part of mapping therapy trains the verb, patient, and agent using action verbs and canonical mappings. The clinicians start simple and then vary sentence structure, systematically adding modifiers or direct object noun phrases. Alright, Jessie, let's do our first picture. I want you to look at the picture and tell me what the verb is in this picture.
Cooking.
That's right, she's cooking. What is she cooking?
Pasta.
She's cooking pasta. Who is doing the cooking?
The girl.
Yeah, the girl is doing the cooking. Awesome. Once Jessie finishes the structure variations for action verbs, she moves on to the second type of sentence that trains verb, patient, and agent in sentences with experiential verbs. Experiential verbs differ because they refer to states of mind or feelings rather than an imageable action.
The teacher in the lobby needs the principal.
Great. What is the verb?
Needs.
That's right. Needs is the verb because that's the action. What does the teacher need?
The principal.
That's right. She needs the principal. Who is doing the needing?
Teacher.
That's right. The teacher is doing the needing. So the teacher is the
agent.
Right. Good job, Jessie. The third phase targets non-canonical structure. Non-canonical sentences are semantically reversible, so they cannot be understood from lexical content alone. The client must map grammatical constituents onto thematic roles to fully comprehend the sentence.
The boy that was happy kissed the dog.
Nice. What's the verb?
Kissed.
That's right. Kissed is the verb. It's the main action. Who is doing the kissing?
The dog.
Who is doing the kissing? Who's the agent? So who does the action?
The boy.
The boy. Nice job. What is he kissing?
The dog.
He's kissing the dog. Nice job, Jessie.
So, we already see an example about. We can see that this patient comprehends a lot what the clinical say to her, but she has an impairment to speak clearly. In a brief deficit on the speech production. So, if you have questions about this, let me know.
Welcome to USMLEFasttrack.com. The section we're going to talk about today is from First Aid for the USMLE Step 1, 2013 edition. Page 420. Aphasia. What is aphasia? Aphasia is a higher order inability to speak. It's a language deficit. What is dysarthria? Dysarthria is the motor inability to speak, so it's the movement deficit. Name the 4 types of aphasias. The 4 types of aphasias includes Broca's aphasia, Wernicke's aphasia, global aphasia, and conduction aphasia. What is Broca's aphasia? Broca's aphasia is a non-fluent aphasia with intact comprehension. What is the mnemonic to help you remember Broca's aphasia? The mnemonic to help you remember this is just remember Broca's broken boca, and boca means mouth in Spanish. What is another name for Broca's aphasia? Broca's aphasia is also known as expressive aphasia. What is the Broca's area? Broca's area is the inferior frontal gyrus of the frontal lobe. What is Wernicke's aphasia? Wernicke's aphasia is a fluent aphasia with impaired comprehension. What is the mnemonic to help you remember Wernicke's aphasia? The mnemonic to help you remember this is Wernicke is wordy but makes no sense. So when a person with Wernicke's talk, you're like, what? What is the Wernicke's area? Wernicke's area is the superior temporal gyrus of the temporal lobe. What is another name of Wernicke's aphasia? Another name of Wernicke's aphasia is repetitive aphasia. Summarize the difference between Broca's aphasia and Wernicke's aphasia. Broca's aphasia is when the person cannot talk properly, but they can understand. So just remember that the mouth is broken. And so this is expressive aphasia. And Wernicke's aphasia is when the person can talk properly, but they don't understand. So these people are wordy, and therefore this is repetitive aphasia. For more information on this topic, click on the link in the description section below. For a full USMLE Step 1 review, be sure to check us out at USMLEFasttrack.com, where we help you review the entire first aid for the USMLE Step 1 with high-quality videos and hundreds of detailed pictures for a better understanding of the material. So to learn from the best USMLE review book, be sure to check us out at USMLEFasttrack.com.
Hello, I'm going to talk about paraphasia. But what is paraphasia? It's a characteristic of wording aphasia, an error in the use of contact words. It's affected by the frequency of words in a vocabulary. Infrequent words take longer to retrieve and are more often inaccurately retrieved than frequent words. Here, an example of object naming. Subjects are represented with a picture of an object and are simply asked to name it. Among the responses represent the common type were distinguished between 3 levels of categorization. Those are basic level, superordinate level, subordinate level. Word was fine, such as word as trout, chart, guitar. In superordinate level, fish, musical instrument, fruit, etc. In subordinate level, rainbow, trout, great white shark, basket shark. Now, let's see more examples. The role of phonetic and semantic similarity in aphasic perception of a category name has been tested. A phasic word asks to match a picture of an object from a set of multiple choice, like in this example. Test word was chair, and subject choices were chair, stair, table, apple. An exchange based on the semantic similarity between the test word chair and the name of the depicted object table. In this case, the similar items are called hyponyms. These findings indicate that the meaning of words and their associative link in the mental lexicon are accessible to Wernicke aphasic, and that only in severe cases of vocabulary deficit do the associative process themselves begin to break down. In general, the content word association of Wernicke aphasic is markedly poorer than a normal speaker. Thus, there are more errors, but the type of error are...
Bed. Could you say cigarette? Cigarette. Typewriter. Paperetta. Okay, was that a correct word?
That sounds all right to me. It's not as good as I could get it,
It's a
but as good
consensus
as I
that
could.
SLI children have problems in the area of inflectional morphology. Specifically, SLI subjects often omit grammatical functions, words, and vowel morphemes, including case, number, gender, person, etc., or they use them incorrectly. It's also seen that in specific language impairment children, the development of the inflectional morphology comes to a standstill and an early stage, and that beyond that point, the acquisition process cannot advance without difficulties. Here is an example from a 10 years old SLI child. You got a tape recorders, the full bus throwing the voucher bill. When the cab breaks, he get repaired. The Mary Louise look at the bear. The Superman is saying goodbye and hiding. The ambulance arrived. In this example, we see problem in number marking, written noun expression, in inappropriate pronominal choice and inappropriate determiner choice, difficulties with the participle form and auxiliary verb, and in subject-verb agreement. Subjects have problem learning regular inflectional rules, while at the same time their ability to retrieve irregular forms. In short, whereas normal speakers appear to possess two distinct psychological mechanisms for inflection, a rule system that attach regular affixes, for example, the third person singular s to stem, and the set of irregular forms such as got and is, which are stored in memory. Specific language impairment subject knowledge of inflectional is selectively impaired. In summary, we have seen that language disorders such as aphasia and specific language impairment do not involve global disruption of the mental lexicon and the grammatical, but rather selective deficit to the otherwise normal lexical and morphological system.
I'm going to tell you about a kind of language learning impairment called specific language impairment, or SLI for short. This is a kind of difficulty with understanding of language, learning language, and with talking. Now, children who have specific language impairment can do well at other kinds of activities, for example, sport, music, making things, art, and making friends. SLI is something of a puzzle. It's not caused by a hearing loss or by a physical disease. Most children who have SLI have difficulties with talking, so with putting words together in spoken sentences, and these are called expressive language difficulties. Some children have difficulties with understanding what people are saying, and these are called receptive language difficulties. Receptive language difficulties often aren't obvious, but a child may only be picking up the odd word here and there and may not be fully understanding what people are saying. There are many different aspects of language that can be affected in SLI, and a speech and language therapist can assess a child to identify exactly what the difficulties are. Some children have difficulties working out the meanings of words, and they may get confused if people use long or more complicated vocabulary. It may be difficult for a child to understand longer or more complex sentences. And some children have difficulties called word-finding difficulties. This is where they know a word and they know the meaning of a word, but they can't remember it and can't access it readily. Children with specific language impairment tend to talk in simpler sentences and may miss off grammatical endings of words. For example, saying, "Yesterday I play in the park," rather than "played in the park." Some children with SLI also have difficulties with speaking clearly, so their speech may sound immature or difficult to understand. If a child with SLI has these kind of speech problems, these often improve as they get older. Because there are no obvious symptoms, SLI is a hidden disability. Children with SLI sometimes can't respond to the things that people say, and if people don't understand what their difficulties are, they can perhaps think that they're being lazy or misbehaving. It's really important, therefore, that we pick up if a child has a specific language impairment. Also, it's easy to assume that if a child has difficulties talking, then they're going to have difficulties with doing all other things, when in fact children with SLI often have talents in other areas, and it's really important that we support children to develop these talents and progress in areas where they can have success and achieve. If you'd like further information on SLI, you can follow the links on our page or watch any of our other videos.